Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. As always, 6 albums to go through. So, 6 albums to go through, we shall go through the 6 albums. We begin with probably the most anticipated one, I don't really know. We have Bloodywood with their new album, New Delhi. I think this is their second proper album, because they started as a parody band initially. And I'm giving this one an A. I really enjoyed this one. It was just such a fun band, fun listen all in all. I quite like how they work in Indian instruments and influences, which works because they're from New Delhi in India. I love the heavy guitarists mixed with those as well. I like the production, I like how bombastic and huge it feels. The band all come across as just really fucking enjoying themselves, and there's just some really positive messages just about their country and where they're from. I think if it does have a failing, it might be the pacing, but even that's not terrible because it's got all this, all these elements that work in, with the riffs matching it quite well. But I just wish that the album was a bit longer, maybe if it had a couple more songs, because there's only 8, and it's just just over 33 minutes. I wish there was a bit more of this one, because I really fucking liked it, and I feel like it was over too quick. I wanted a bit more, and, hopefully when they drop the next one, they will give me more. But for what I got out of it, for my first Bloodywood listen, I really enjoyed it, and I completely understand why people are hyping these guys up through the internet. I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands so much. Yeah, absolutely fun listen. And a definite recommend if you've heard any form of fuzz, which you probably have. Just overall, really fun. I liked it. Next, we have a band that's been around a fair while. We have Cradle of Filth with their newest album, The Screaming of the Valkyries. And my third go around with this band, I do realise I forgot to actually list Bloodywood genre, which is like heavy metal slash new metal, and also some Indian and Eastern influences. Cradle of Filth Extreme Metal, which I think is just black metal with extra gubbins. I'm giving this one a C+. Now, I think it's pretty okay for the most part. I think the band still sound really good, and Danny Filth is still a really good frontman. I think the instrumentation is overall really solid. The dissonant and heavy stuff that you would expect, and I like the guitar solos. I just wish that there was more. I like that the new members fit in, especially new keyboardist slash female vocalist Zoe Marie Fedorov. The pacing doesn't change a whole bunch, and the production feels like it's weirdly constrictive, despite its producer having worked with the band before. I think my biggest criticism might be the lyrics, though, because I felt like they could have easily turned this into a concept album revolving around Norse mythology, and they've done concept albums about mythology before. They've done concept albums before, and it feels kind of weird that they didn't take that route. I feel like I would rate this higher if they did do it. For what it is, I think it does a serviceable job, and is a cradle album, take that how you will. Cradle, I meant to say that. It's just okay though. I just feel like it's got a lot of missed opportunities, and for as long as it is, it doesn't really do a whole lot unique with compared to what the band usually do. So hopefully they can pick it up for next time. But I think this is sort of a damp squib for them. Next, we have a band named Dutch Interior, who are sadly not from Holland. They're from Long Beach, California, and their newest album titled Moneyball. This is sort of a indie rock sort of vibe. I'm giving this one an A minus. I actually liked the sort of country and southern influences that were worked in, but it doesn't feel boring. It's actually got quite a lot of really nice and heartwarming songwriting to it. I think the lyricism, well, okay, it's not my favourite thing, as I've got written here, but the meaning behind them and the themes of human connection are written in a really nice way. It's a weirdly wholesome album as well in that case. Pacing's solid. I like the sort of laid back vibe with that, and the production as well. There is more of an acoustic feel to things, but the fact that it's so untouched makes it feel more fleshed out. The performances are really good. There are 6 band members, but I could not tell you who does what because I couldn't find much in my own research. But all in all, just solid. I like the instrumentation. Again, simple as it can feel. It's just got a nice vibe. It's a very vibey, cozy album, And I like that they work in some ambient and blues stuff, and even tads of jazz. I wish that they worked those elements in a bit more to spice up the pacing slightly. But for what we get, I think it's a really smooth and laid back and very nice album. Next up, we have the Lottery Winners with their new album KOK, or Keep On Keeping On. This is sort of an indie rock vibe as well, in a more traditional indie rock vibe than the Dutch Interior album I just went over. I'm giving this one a B+. I felt like it was quite charming. I also feel like a couple too many people are bashing a bit negatively on this one. I do think the instrumentation could have been balanced out more in like with its poppier elements, and maybe picked up the pace a little bit more. But overall, again, just the vibe of this album was really good. I like the focus on like positive mental health, and I think the pacing is pretty good as well. I want it to lean more into the ideas that it has. I feel like not enough of them are capitalized on, but it does have its heart in the right place. I think that's my favorite thing about this album. Like, while it did clearly want to do more things with what it has, it doesn't lose its own sight. It keeps one thing and it does it really well for the most part, but it does try to work in other elements, which mostly kind of work. Band performances are quite good. The band are quite nice to listen to, especially the female vocalist whose name I've got written down. Let me see if I can find it. Katie Lloyd, who is the band's bassist as well as one of the vocalists. I wish she got more chances to shine because I like Tom Rylance, who is the main singer, and he's very charismatic as well. But Katie's just got a really pleasant voice to listen to. Yeah, really good band work. Pacing solid enough. I like the riffs, I like the lyricism. Production quite glossy, quite nicely handled. Doesn't overdo anything, and yeah, just polishes things quite nicely. So, can recommend. Next up, we have a band, and I have no clue if I'm going to be able to pronounce their name correctly. Awake? It's RWAKE, with their new album, The Return of Magic. This is a sludge metal sort of vibe. I'm giving this one a B-. I thought it was pretty solid. I do feel like it drags on a little bit in some areas, but I like the fact that they work in these really nice melodic elements to the sludgy metal stuff, but when it leans into the heavy stuff, it fully feels like it. I think the guitar work is really good. I feel like the pacing doesn't do a lot of forward moving. I mean, it's immersive and pretty atmospheric, but it doesn't really do enough across its 53-minute and 50-second length, and bizarrely, it's still not the longest album of this video. Oh no, we're going to get to that quite soon. But it doesn't really do a lot with what it has, and I wish it did slightly more, and I wish that there was more in the lyrics. I think it's supposed to be about the supernatural, maybe, but I really couldn't tell you, and I couldn't bloody find anything. But the bands go pretty hard. This is their first album in 14 years as well, and I like it when a band who've taken a long time off can still fucking go, especially whoever the guitarist is. I think I wrote that down. I didn't, but I did write down Brittany Fugati, who is the Moog player. There was a lot of synth elements on this one, which I quite liked as well. I just wish they worked those in more. Yeah, pacing solid, instrumentation overall pretty good. Well, I say pacing solid. Pacing doesn't move forward a lot, but instrumentation good enough. Performance is really good. I wish there was more for the lyrics, and yeah, production a bit too thick in some places, but I feel like it fits the sound. Even if it can take a while to get used to, it does still ultimately pull itself back enough for me. And finally, it saddens me to announce this, but this episode breaks the streak of obligatory debuts. I thought this was one until I looked deeper into it. This is Weather Day with their new album Haunted Disaster. Weather Day is not a band, it is a one-person project by a Swedish musician who goes by the name Sputnik. No one knows their real name. I just know that they have an Instagram and they have pictures of themselves and they go by non-binary pronouns. That's all I know about them. And this album gets an A. I actually quite liked it. It was a sort of emo lo-fi shoegaze vibe. It was not self-released, it was released for a label called Top Shelf, but it was self-produced. And yeah, big fat A. I really like this one a lot in its areas. The first time I listened to it though, I wasn't super keen on it, and the fact that it's like over 76 minutes long, it's a long set. It's an hour and 16 minutes, lads. It's slightly more than that. It's a long set, but it was still really good. I like the instrumentation. I feel like it balances across the sounds quite well. I wish there were more of a shoegaze vibe, but the traditional emo vibe is quite nice. Sputnik's performance and just their vocals in general, really loved. I loved that work. The lyricism gets really dark. There are themes of toxic relationships and nostalgia and codependency, and it's written in a very violent way in some places, I won't lie, but I feel like that does add a bit to it. It adds more than a bit to it. Production's quite good too. I like it when someone does all of their own stuff. People know this, especially if it's just a one person or like even 2 or 3 person thing. Like when it's small numbers, that can make a bigger impact on what they create. I've always really liked that. And Production's quite good. I do wish that there was more finagling with the pacing in some areas, but I feel like, for an album that's this bloody long, I can't say it's boring, and there's a lot of good ideas. Again, it can overreach and it feels a bit too ambitious, but Sputnik brings it back usually with just how hard they're working as a vocalist and as a producer and as an instrumentalist as well. I think they do all the instrumentation. I'm pretty sure I got drums and guitar and some keyboard. There might have been bass, I'm not fully sure. But all in all, really good stuff, and, even if it does break the obligatory debut streak, I still thought this was a really fun listen. And that'll about do it. Next up, I'll announce the stuff I have lined up for next week. Let me move my camera screen thing up slightly. So we have Arch Enemy with Blood Dynasty, Backwash with Only Dust Remains, looking forward to that one, The Darkness with Dreams on Toast, Death Heaven with Lonely People with Power, Forlorn with Aether, and Jive Bomb with Ethereal. As for other things, I would have to say my favourite song, kind of difficult, but I'm gonna have to go with Horse from Moneyball by Dutch Interior. I thought it was just a really sweet song with some really good meaning to the message. I thought it was quite nice. And favourite album cover, kind of difficult. We had some really good ones, but I'm going to have to give it to Haunted Disaster by Weatherday simply because of the thing in the background, which is the character that Weatherday did for their debut album, which dropped back in 2019. I can't remember the name of it, but I like it when a piece of art ties back into something previously, and also I just like what looks like hand-drawn stuff for album covers. That's just a thing I've always enjoyed. That'll about do it for me, though. Next thing you'll see me for will be tomorrow night, the halfway show of PPW vs AVW, as we're going to break even in 2 weeks' time. And then more Yakuza Like a Dragon on Saturday. So I'll see you all for those. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.